Time for another wrestling podcast.
All right. Are you fucking kidding me?
Guys, I got blocked again on Twitter.
I'm your mark of marks.
That's the most reliable source on the interwebs.
The social assassin at your disposal, bitches.
All right, guys. Welcome to another wrestling podcast, episode 235. I'm Credo.
Yeah, and I'm Angry Cooter, calling on a fucking cell phone.
I'm Minority Mike.
All right, guys. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to be talking a lot about some of the big news this week. Bischoff is gone. Some talk about Seth Rollins and the draft, guys. We just finished the draft. Each show is going to have their own superstars. Hopefully nobody's going to cross over. It's going to be what it is, so we'll talk about that coming up. But also joining us is Allie Recks. She's going to be talking with JB in a little bit. She's our guest for this evening, so stay tuned for that. AnotherWrestlingPodcast.com. Cooterman, first and foremost, as you're phoning it in via cell phone.
Don't even fucking get me started, all right? This is the problem with Apple products. You have an iPhone that hooks up to your Apple TV and your Apple Watch and your Mac, and then all of a sudden, oh, we need to do a few updates. All right, I'm recording in 2 hours. 2 hours later, it's still fucking updating. I don't care if my Apple Watch can now unlock the lock screen on my fucking computer. I don't care. It's fucking obnoxious.
Well, they call me Angry Cooter for a reason. Well, let's try to get you more unangry, or more angry, I don't know. Either way, Cooter, the big news coming out this week is Eric Bischoff is done. He's gone. He's not the executive, quote-unquote, producer of Smackdown anymore, and this comes as quite a bit of a shock because it was just 3 months into it. I mean, they announced it a few months ago. He was going to be the executive director for Smackdown, whatever that means. I mean, is it just keeping him away from other promotions or whatnot? But they played nice, Cooter. He had a nice little He had a nice little goodbye message. He welcomed Bruce Pritchard in, saying he's great, yada yada yada. But what do you think happened? Because I mean, he literally moved from the middle of nowhere. I think he lives in North Dakota or something like that.
No, Wyoming. Yeah,
Wyoming. Nothing's around him. So he moved. He has on his Twitter that he's literally packed up his family, moved to Connecticut. And now 3 months later, he's gone. So, what the hell do you think happened? Like, is it creative differences? Something that he was promised, didn't get? What do you think?
I don't know. Was he fired? Did he quit? What the fuck? I don't get it. The whole thing just kind of came out of nowhere, and I don't like to do the whole what if or what happened thing. It's just like I'll wait for it to come out like everybody else. I was not too keen on him being brought in anyway. Like I like Eric for what he did back in the 90s. If you ask me creatively, and it's no disrespect because I like Eric, he's a one-hit wonder creatively. I mean, he had a great angle with the NWO, Sting, built up a few guys, but you know what? In the long run, didn't really stand the test of time. And more importantly, like, after wrestling, he had a very successful, little television company. I think personally, as opposed to, being a producer on SmackDown, I think he could have been best utilized on the network, making new programming on there for them. I mean, I think with a lot of the stuff that he did outside of wrestling, if he could have maybe brought some of that know-how to the network, I think that would have been his best fit. I didn't see him from, in my opinion, as a great creative personality.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because this wasn't like a TV gig. This wasn't to put him on TV. This was just kind of to be that creative director, if you will, behind the scenes. And, I like to play conspiracy theory. I want to throw some things out there, what could have happened. And the only thing I could think of, the most logical thing I could think that, why would he leave within 3 months?
He hated the Japanese as much as you did.
He hated them. Why would you think, what would be the biggest thing for somebody to leave? And all I could think of was that, he's promised to be the creative director, right? So, he's given this big job to, change things, move them around, do what he wants, kind of, right? But I think it was all a ruse. It was just a title given to him, say that he was back there because at the end of the day, Vinnie Mac was still calling the shots, and I don't know, maybe he wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and Vince kept shooting it down. So if I had to be if I was a betting man, Cooter, and I had to put some money down on this, it's all just guessing, but I think it was something to the fact that he wanted to do stuff. They wouldn't let him do it. So he's like, fine, why the fuck am I here then? So I'm just going to leave. So that's just a guess. But it's very odd. Very odd to say you're going to pick up and move your family and to be gone 3 months later to where, I don't know, did you bang the secretary? Did you, what did you do? Mike, what do you think? You play some conspiracy theory.
It's all that blue chew that he got.
You know what? I'm with Cooter on this, where it's just like I just kind of want to wait and see what comes out. I mean, he's scheduled to be at StarCast next month, so I just want to see if he mentions anything there. I'm kind of shocked because they had him move him and his family up from Wyoming to Connecticut. And now all of a sudden he's gone. And now they're bringing in Bruce Pritchard. Now, I'm not knocking Bruce Pritchard. Let's just hope that Bruce Pritchard doesn't bring a gun to work. Because then that just won't work out for him this time around.
See,
no,
I think everybody wants to hear what's going to come out, but I think, they made him sign like a non-disclosure agreement or something. Because I feel like, I don't know. There's no way he's going to badmouth them because that could be future money for him somewhere down the road, and for him to just be like, they fucking sucked, I'm leaving. I don't know if that's going to come out, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think we all want to hear really the reason, and it's like, just give us a reason. Why'd you leave? You didn't want to do it? You didn't like it? You didn't think it was what it was going to be? Just give us a reason, I don't want to play that conspiracy theorist and just make up lies, but it's something, it's like, it's I don't know. I think it's a big deal to just be there for 3 months and then that's it, especially when you moved and all that.
He spent a lot of money on suits, Credo, from what he was saying on 83 Weeks. All those new suits that he bought for nothing. It's terrible. Poor bastard.
Man, and that's what's funny too. So one day after he said that he's leaving WWE, that they booked him for fucking the appearance at StarCast. So it's like, he's got to say something. But if he signed some non-disclosure agreement, it's like, how good is that interview going to be? He's like, I just left. What is it? What can he say? What can he say?
He'll just do his podcast like he always does. He'll just do another live version of 83 Weeks, the same way that Pritchard used to do when they did something to wrestle with, the same way that Shivani does when he's on the road. They all do these live shows, yeah.
Did we see anything that looked Eric Bischoff-ish? Because I think when we got word that this was happening, everybody's like, oh, this is the Paul Heyman show, because we saw that whole, remember that 10-minute thing where they put him through the Raw Titantron, and it was like, oh, this has Heyman's hands all over it. Nothing really said that for SmackDown. Nothing was like, oh, Bischoff must be doing this or something, right?
I disagree.
Oh, yeah, what was that?
There's a lot of Hispanics and a lot of Japanese on SmackDown. I'm just saying. It looked very, very Nitro-ish to me with the United Nations, as I like to call it, on that show, which is fine. I'm just saying. It's funny because, you see that those kind of stars, and, that's kind of his forte. Those are people that he's used to working with, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Go with what you know, right? I'm such a dick.
Either way, it's odd, needless to say, very odd. But guys, there's a lot of other things going on this week. One thing that stands out, Mike, you played this clip online from Busted Open with Seth Rollins and how David LaGreca felt about him and all this. And let's talk briefly about Seth Rollins, because the night after Hell in a Cell, they did not mention that match because they knew they fucked up. It was at 10:45, 15 minutes left on Raw. It was the first mention of it last week. But, this week, the feud continues. But tell me briefly what David said on Busted Open, because it was hilarious. If you guys didn't hear this week's show, or just, Mike, explain this clip, because it was exactly
what he say. Man,
boy.
It was the roast of Seth Rollins. I literally felt like there was people in the background. Oh, it was. He was literally roasting this man's life, and it was everything that you could possibly think of great. Look, Seth Rollins in ring, amazing athlete, incredible. He can go out there and put 5-star matches. On the microphone as a babyface, it's
drizzling shit.
It is painful. This guy, it basically ripped him apart on the promo that he had because he was basically on Smackdown dragged to hell. A couple days before that, he was in a Hell in a Cell match, which he thought on Raw. He said he thought he was done with it, but he forgot to realize that the match ended with the Mandible Claw and Bray Wyatt standing at the top of the ramp, so that clearly was not done. But then he gets to cut in the middle about how he's happy to be in the Mile High City, and it's not realistic to us. And then Dave LaGreca just ripped this motherfucker apart, man.
You got to go into the more dramatic part about it, to where he's coughing up blood one night, and the next night he's dragged to hell, and then when he's on SmackDown, he's like, "Hey,
Chuck, I'm just happy to be here.
I can't wait for the draft."
Day.
I was like, "Wait a minute, we're just
tell you something. I gotta say this because most people get mad at me for my world famous rants and my yelling and screaming. Holy shit! Man, he put me to shame with that one. That was absolutely fucking hilarious. And he's right. Like, he's playing it line by line. I'm like, as if to say, this is what you're saying. This is what you should be saying. And holy shit, are you forgetting what the fuck has been happening to you? It's amazing. Line by line. You can't be serious. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, is this Seth Rollins who can't cut a promo? Or is this just fucking, like, really bad writing creatively?
You know, one of my favorite parts of it is when Seth Rollins is talking about the draft. He's like, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know where the Fiend's going to go. You know, the Fiend go to SmackDown. The Fiend come to Raw, and he stopped it. He's like, wait a minute. Bray Wyatt is a homicidal maniac trying to kill you.
And you think he gives a shit about the draft?
About where he gets drafted.
He literally called Seth Rollins a son of a bitch. And this son of a bitch.
As funny and as entertaining it was, this is my frustrations with this character. Like, I don't think he's the guy. I gave it a chance because we didn't have anybody. It was either him or Roman. So I'm just like, you know what? Let's see what Seth can do. We gave him the ball. He threw it up there and missed the net. He didn't even brick. Just missed it.
Seth was better when he was a heel, when he had the little stooges with him, you know, and playing the heel champion. I think he was great as that, but when you give him a chance to be a face, and it's just like, what is he fighting for anymore? Like, what is he, you know, like, just all he says is burn it down. Like, okay, well, what else are you going to bring to the table?
Get your tagline in there. Yeah, get that tagline in there, Seth.
And so this whole feud is continuing, guys. They're going to have a rematch at Crown Jewel. Falls Count Anywhere match, I believe they said. So how do you go to this match now? Is it going to be in red lights? Is it we just saw this match where it took him 10 finishers and he still couldn't pin him, and then, you know, he had to throw those the ladder and the toolbox and whatever else on top of him to win. How do you win in a Falls Count Anywhere match now with him, to where
they'll do some corny shit where they pin him down with a fucking forklift or something like that because it's Falls Count Anywhere. It's, you know, it's what it's gonna be. You watch, it's gonna be a forklift or something that Bray can't lift to get his fucking it's corny shit, bro.
I have to add one more thing from that rant that made me laugh hysterically. Is he asked the same question I asked when I watched Raw. How the fuck did he find that house? How did he find that house? And you know what, Cooter, we're going to go here right now.
Okay.
Rambling Rabbit. Right?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go here right now. Rambling Rabbit. Rambling Rabbit sounded like he was going to finish.
That was Bully Ray's fucking great line from that show. I love it. You know what the best part is speak in general, podcasts about wrestling have been better than fucking wrestling. Are you noticing this? Holy shit. I mean, what the fuck, Bubba?
So, you brought that up too, Mike. So the Funhouse was burned down. Does it come back? Is that it? I mean, how many? And it's almost. I think I read too where somewhere they're redoing the whole storyline about a few years ago. Remember they burned Bray's house down in the woods and all that stuff too.
Yeah,
So
Orton did it right before WrestleMania.
So now we're burning down his Funhouse and.
God. And you want to know something too? I felt more bad for the Bray Wyatt character in that scene than I cared for Seth Rollins as a character, because it was for the way Bray was coming off. Stop! Why are you doing this? Like, I actually felt for the man. Like, it made me believe into that, bipolar or whatever you want to say it is. It just, I don't know. Just Seth Rollins by itself didn't come off at all good for me this week. Ever, actually.
Yeah,
well, here's the other thing. Let's throw this out there. You brought up when Randy Orton burned down the house. Do you remember what shitty house match that we got after WrestleMania? Remember the House of Horrors match or whatever the fuck it was?
God.
Oh, I can't wait. Maybe we'll. But wait a minute. I thought we were supposed to have like segregated brands now, like
Yeah, that's supposed to.
Well, that's after this week, so that's the whole point now. Going to Crown Jewel, if you have Bray Wyatt on SmackDown and Seth on Raw, isn't that a big no-no for this whole brand separation and draft? So
well, until Survivor Series anyway, because that's what they've been doing the last couple of years. They've been having the Raw champions go against the SmackDown champions in like a contest to see which brand could get more wins. So, I mean, we're going to see it again.
Right, because then you're saying that, now I'm picturing in my head Brock versus Seth again at Survivor Series.
There you go.
Oh, God.
Well, we'll talk about the draft coming up in a few minutes. But, guys, JB sat down with independent sensation Allie Recks joining us right now.
I'm JB, and today somebody I've been trying to talk to for quite a while, someone who is definitely making waves all over professional wrestling. She's been a champion in multiple promotions. You can see her in multiple promotions, but right now you can listen to her on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Allie Recks. Allie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me today.
We talked a little bit earlier. I am here on the East Coast. It is a miserable, rainy day, and it was nice to know that, we would be chatting today. I've got a lot to kind of go over with, and I just wanted to know, for people who may not specifically be familiar with you just yet, can you kind of give us the early, how did you get into wrestling, and maybe even, what really got you into wrestling? Kind of give us that sort of rundown real quick.
Sure. I started watching wrestling probably a lot later than a lot of people did. Like when they started, I was probably about like 12, 13. And in that time, my cousins were watching it all the time, and I'm like the only girl basically in my family. I have a lot of boy cousins, so that's what they were into. So every day after school, I would come home and kind of watch it with them, and then it kind of just stuck. I was one of those that made the wrestling ring in the backyard on the trampoline, the garden hoses and the whole nine. And I would have my own little shows with my friends on like Saturdays and like that kind of stuff. And my mom always said like, oh, she's just going to outgrow it. But then when I returned about 15 or 16, I tried to do one of those week-long camps at a wrestling school near my house. And my parents were kind of just not having it. Said that they just wanted me to go to college. I was a softball player, so they thought I would go to college on like a scholarship for softball. But I don't know, at the end of the day, it was always wrestling. So when I did turn 18, I went to college for a year. And I did pretty good. I did all right, but I didn't know how to really stop doing something because I was always playing sports. So I just really wanted to go back to something. And wrestling was the first on my list. So I found a school, I started training, and actually for the first year and a half before I made my debut, like I didn't even tell my parents I was training because I just didn't think they would approve of it, or like dropping out of school and going to wrestling. So I actually lied to them a lot when I would come home, like all bruised up from practice, and they'd ask me like, "Oh, like where are you getting all these bruises from?" And I would just say I was taking like a self-defense class. I'm sorry, like at the gym. So it was pretty funny, and it was pretty much like a huge turnaround when I did finally like sit them down and tell them like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to do, and it was kind of just put it like accept it or don't kind of thing. And to my surprise, like they accepted it, and they accepted it really well, and now they support me so much with it. They come to as many shows as they possibly can. My mom's always running around bragging about it, which is kind of cool hearing it from her because I never expected it. So yeah, that's really it. That's like the story of it.
Oh, that's awesome. And it seems to me like, there's some dates online. You can find anything online. But from what I saw, like July 2014 was kind of your first official match. Is that correct?
Yes, it was actually my first show. I was in Whitehaven, Pennsylvania. And for that match, we were literally in the middle of a campground. So there was a big tarp above the ring and about 12 people in the crowd. But let me tell you, it was a fun debut.
Well, you've been in the business now. It's 2014, so we're coming on 5-6 years of professional wrestling. Do you have any regrets, or do you feel like you're right at home and right where you need to be?
Regrets? No, not really. I mean, I've had a couple injuries along the way, which I feel like I almost could have prevented if I would have like worked out my legs a little harder or stopped being a little more reckless in the ring. But other than that, no, I have no regrets. This is something I definitely want to continue to do, and I feel like I'm on the right track. I just moved out here to Florida, so I'm looking to like expand out here more, work for many promotions out here, and get my name out here. I feel like I did all I could up north, so I feel like I'm on the right track, and I'm excited to see what's to come.
Awesome. Now, we spoke a little bit about being in the business for this amount of time. 5 years sounds like a short amount of time, but a lot has happened in professional wrestling in 5 years, and more specifically, a lot has happened with the women in the past 5 years. So, have you seen kind of the changes coming the past 5 years? How have you been treated differently now versus like when you first started getting into the business, or did you have a pretty good time throughout?
I mean, it's definitely changed a ton in the 5 years that I've been wrestling. Like, for example, we would have like maybe one women's match on a lot of the cards, and we'd be like first or second, kind of just get us out of the way or to start the show off. And now, like, when I wrestle for all these different promotions, there's 2, sometimes 3 women's matches. And, like, in PPW, when I wrestled, like, for them in Pennsylvania, I was their champion. Like, I main evented one of their shows with Emma. And, like, to be able to do that, like, now, like, is amazing. Because 5 years ago, that would have never happened. You know what I'm saying? And it was just an all-around, like, amazing show. And it feels good to be able to show the world like what we can do, because like, these girls are talented, they're athletic, and like they can really put on a great show, and it's amazing.
So again, you've wrestled kind of all over. You're now down in Florida. What do you think, actually thinking back and being a part of wrestling for a little bit, like what do you think was the first thing that kind of drew you into it? You said you watched it with your cousins, but like what was that one thing? Was it the athleticism? Was it the kind of storylines about professional wrestling? Was it the look of people? Like, what really got you into professional wrestling?
What it was for me was I was a huge Rey Mysterio fan growing up. Like, that was my idol. That was, like, my love. Like, you know how that goes. And he had one of his knee injuries was around the same time where I actually blew my knee out for the first time, and I was, like, in 8th grade or 7th grade. So I was decently young, and I had to get a pretty bad surgery. They had to do, like, it was a 6-hour surgery, and they had to, like, reconstruct my entire knee. I was dropped from like a cheerleading stunt. Like, I was one of the flyers that was on top, and they just decided it wasn't a good idea to catch me. I don't know. But I just remember like, he always got, like, he hurt his knee, and he was going through the surgeries and stuff, and he always came back, like, better and stronger. So I was like, look, like, I could do this too, kind of thing. Like, I can get through this. And I remember being so young and going into surgery. That was my little Rey Mysterio teddy bear that I got off the WWE shop. And, like, everybody at the surgery center was, like, asking me about it and what it was. And they let me take it in with me. And it just became, like, this whole big thing. And, like, as far as him wrestling on TV, I, like, connected to him because he was always such, like, of an underdog in the matches. And, like, as in softball, when I would, like, get up to bat, and I remember, like, the whole infield, the whole outfield, they would take, like, 5 steps in, and it was just so, like, aggravating because I was just this small, tiny little girl, so they just assumed that I couldn't hit the ball, I couldn't play. And it felt so good when I would, like, rip the ball over their heads and stuff. And that's just what made me relate to him in, like, so many different ways. And that's what connected me to wrestling.
So you've been a fan for a long time. Not specifically your matches so far, but we'll get to that in a minute. But, like, do you have matches that you look back at that you just really have, like, I can think of 5 or 6 matches that I watched growing up that I really, really, like, they're my favorite matches. And if anybody ever says, I can't believe you watched that or whatever, I would say, okay, sit down, I'm going to show you these matches. So do you have, obviously you were a big fan of Rey Mysterio. Do you have any favorite matches that you can think of over the years, whether it be, WWE, WCW, TNA, any of that?
First one that comes to mind would be Ray and Eddie from Halloween Havoc. That's, like, my favorite match ever. So that's definitely the first one that comes to my mind.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of Halloween, it is knocking on our door. It's going to be close. Are you a big, like, Halloween person? Do you like to dress up? Do you, what are you going to be doing for Halloween?
Well, you have no idea. So my fiance is a huge, he loves Halloween. It's his Christmas. It's his, like, favorite thing ever. So our house right now is completely already decorated and decked out with fog machines and black lights and glow-up things, and it's insane. And we already had a Halloween party on Sunday, the first Sunday of October, and we already dressed up. He was James Dean and I was Marilyn Monroe. So it's going to be Halloween for an entire month in this house.
I guess my invite got lost in the mail, but that's all right. Maybe next year we'll figure that out. But not only do you like Halloween, obviously, if you look at any of your social media, whether it be Twitter or Instagram, it looks like you have a lot of varied interests. Jurassic Park seems to be one of them. That is an awesome, whether it's the first 3 movies or the ones that are coming up. What is it about Jurassic Park that you like so much?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm just completely obsessed with it. I think it's because when I was a kid, I was absolutely terrified of Jurassic Park and everything to do with it. And every time my mom would put it on, I would just be so scared. I think that's what made me go to love it so much, like, growing up.
So with Jurassic Park, I'm not for sure if you're aware. This news kind of came out a little bit earlier, I think maybe 2 weeks ago or something, but they said that the next Jurassic World movie, they're going to bring back Dr. Grant, Dr. Malcolm, and Dr. Sattler, and they're going to actually have, like, large roles in the movie. It's not just going to be, like, little bit parts. Are you excited about that?
Oh my God, I read the article and I, like, nearly cried. I was so excited to finally see them come back. I mean, I love what they're doing with, like, Claire and Owen and everything, but to see them come back and everybody be together, like, that's gonna be really good.
It's gonna be awesome. So, big fan of Jurassic Park, loves Halloween. What else are some things that we need to know about you? What are your other go-to things that you like to do when you're not wrestling?
I'm a huge toy collector. So I go around to all flea markets and, like, comic shops and toy stores, anywhere I can find them, and I'm always buying figures and statues and Pop Funkos and the whole nine. So that's one of our, like, biggest hobbies that we do outside of wrestling. We have, like, a YouTube show, actually, where we go and we show everybody, like, how we hunt and find these toys. So it's a lot of fun to do.
Awesome. So what is that one thing, and I know you've got it, but you're looking at it maybe in your house, it's there, there's a fire or something. a hurricane, and that's the thing you're grabbing before you walk out the door. What is that one thing?
Oh my God, that's such a hard question. Probably my original Jurassic Park gates from like 1993, I think they came out, or 1991, and they were so hard to find, and we were looking for it everywhere. We actually had to find it online. And it's only missing like 2 pieces that I'm hunting for, but yeah, that's like my prized possession right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you're wrestling all over. You said you just moved down to Florida. Where are some places that people could actually see you wrestle these days? Where are you're based out of now?
Right now I'm based out of Sarasota, Florida, and I'm actually taking a little break from wrestling right now. I gotta make a few little changes and tweaks, but I will be. I have a booking up in Minnesota on the 19th of this month, and then I'm really making a debut out here on November 9th up in Orlando for USA Pro Wrestling.
All right. So, you kind of, you said you started up north, you're down south now. Like, are there any places that you can think of or promotions that you haven't got a chance to work with yet, other than the big ones, obviously, but like, are there some places that you still have on maybe that bucket list that you want to go through, or even opponents that you want to wrestle?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Opponent-wise, there's a handful of people that I'd love to wrestle again, actually. I've had the chance to work with, like, Santana Garrett in the past, and I'd love to work with her again if that was ever possible. Penelope Ford, I've never had a one-on-one match with, and I would have loved to have one of those with her. A lot of people, like, I just missed the opportunities and chances right before they would get signed, man. Britt Baker, I haven't had a chance to work with yet. I would love to work with her. Oh gosh, there's so many people. I can go on forever with lists.
Yeah. Now you're here now. 5 years in the business. Do you feel like this is the thing? This is where you're at. You're gonna keep working, and at some point, there are more promotions than there have ever been. There's WWE, there's AEW, there's Impact, like you name it, there's Ring of Honor, and so on and so forth. Where do you want to land? Where do you decide that, like, this is my goal, my ultimate goal, and I'm shooting for that? So, like, what is that scenario in your head? Where are you wanting to land?
Everybody's ultimate goal is to be in the WWE. Excuse me. Like that, ever since I was a kid, that's always been my dream. So I'm going to continue to keep working towards that goal. But we have so many platforms of wrestling now that you can obtain so many other goals along the way, whether it's AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor, like any of them. Like, I would love to have the opportunity to work with any of those promotions. But like, my end goal would definitely be to be with the WWE.
Well, we mentioned today that, you have lots of social media. You've got Twitter and Instagram. You said you had a YouTube channel. You also have a Pro Wrestling Tees site. Do you feel like that it's a good part of professional wrestling, the world of social media, or have you felt like that there's been problems with it as well? I know that a lot of people sometimes that it's a great thing. They get to keep in touch with their fans and everything. And then sometimes there are some people that get a little, too brave on social media. Like, what has your experience been being a professional wrestler and working with social media?
I never really had too much of a problem with it, honestly. It could be a good thing in ways you can connect with your fans and promote where you're going to be, and like promote your merchandise, like the whole nine. But it can also be like a bad thing with some people, where they'll just kind of, like you said, be brave on this, say like some pretty bad things that'll hold them back from obtaining their goals and getting where they want to be. Like, you have to watch what you say, just be smart, and that's really what it all comes down to. Just watch what you say and use it for what it's for, and connect with your fans, and call it a day.
So there's one last thing I want to just talk to you about, is just that, you told this great story about how you really liked Rey Mysterio, and how that's the person that kind of got you in. And so let's just say that right now this interview's playing, and there may be a little girl out there, maybe a young boy, that whoever's listening to this, and they're looking up to you and they're wanting to become you. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's wanting to break into the business?
That wanted to break into the business, I would just say, train as much as you possibly can, go to the gym as much as you possibly can, and train in different places and kind of get a taste of how everybody trains, because you can always take a little bit from each and every place that you go across, and just keep your ears open, your mouth shut, respect everybody, shake everybody's hand, and that's really all there is to it. Just be respectful. We're a family.
Awesome. Well, we definitely want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Look for Allie Recks. She's coming up north, then she's going to debut down in Florida. We definitely want to have you back on the show at some point. And is there anything else you want to tell anybody who's listening today?
Just that change is coming, and it's been waiting to come for a very, very long time.
All right. Well, check her out on Twitter, Instagram. It's at Allie Recks. Thank you again, and we are looking forward to seeing what comes next with Allie Recks. So thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you remember when you were always ready to go? Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach. And since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be whenever an opportunity arises.
That's BlueChew.com. That's blue, like the color blue.
Blue Chew is prescribed online and is shipped straight to your door in a discreet package. So no in-person doctor's visits, no waiting in line in the pharmacy, no, hey guys, got your dick pills over here ready. No, best of all, it's just no more awkwardness. It's the best thing. They're going to send it to your house in a discreet, no one's going to know that you're getting dick pills in the mail.
That's true, because, guys, right now, we got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use our special promo code AWP. Just pay $5 for shipping. Again, that's BlueChew.com, BlueChew.com, promo code AWP to try it for free.
That's right. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they're cheaper than the pharmacy. What else could you want, bitches?
Blue Chew is better, faster, and the cheaper option. And we want to thank Blue Chew, us, from Another Wrestling Podcast, for the sponsorship.
All right, so we just had the draft. After we just had another draft 2 months prior to that, and whatnot. So, guys, this is it.
That
Supposedly,
wasn't a draft. That was the Superstar Shakeup. Don't confuse the two, Credo.
I'm sorry. Things keep shaking up. I'm sick of it. So hopefully this is the end-all and be-all for a while. So Raw has their guys. SmackDown has their guys. And NXT, well, they have their guys, but they weren't a part of the whole draft. So Raw had more people. SmackDown had more. Guys, what did you think about this draft? I mean, we had like USA on TV and Fox competing and little highlight videos of who was going to get who. Did you like how they portrayed it this time around, making it like a real draft, trying to get other networks involved on TV and talking about it? What was your just maybe overall thoughts about this draft? Because a lot of people complained about, well, what really changed? What really changed? I mean, a lot of the guys kind of stayed with their own brands. No major titles, or guys who had major titles went anywhere else different. Was it a good draft?
The one thing that stuck out to me was, it was corny as shit, with the war rooms and the whole 9 yards. But nobody failed to mention this aspect of a draft. right? So every round, Raw got 3 picks and SmackDown got 2, right? All right, so first round, Raw picked Seth Rollins, right? And then SmackDown picked Brock Lesnar. But what if, I forget who else they picked. I guess the point that I want to make is, how are they making their 2 picks? But what if one of Raw's picks was SmackDown picks? Do you get what I'm saying?
Okay,
What if he's
so
like,
the way it was done, so they only had a certain amount of people available to be drafted on SmackDown.
You're not understanding what I'm trying to say.
Well,
let me
all right,
try
go
to
ahead.
articulate
Let me
better.
just make sure I got it right.
Because you can't make 3 picks. All right, I'm picking these 3 guys for the round. But what if, like, say, all right, Raw got the first pick, and then it went SmackDown. What if SmackDown picked the guy that Raw wanted for their second pick of that round? You see what I'm saying? Like, how do you
All right,
know that
I
you
get what
didn't
you're
overlap
saying now.
picks?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Just in
it
case
didn't
they
make
might have
sense
picked
to
the
me.
same person.
Exactly.
What if, I mean, they didn't explain, maybe they handed in their drafts and they had to get approved first? I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, how
maybe.
does it
I don't
happen
know.
how does it happen when they do like the NBA draft and stuff, or like NFL
But
draft?
they only do 1 pick at a time. Like, you have
Yeah.
a set amount of time on the clock. You see who's left on the board, and especially like in the NBA. And you're like, all right, this is who's left. This is who we're picking. They send it down, and it's a done deal. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure, yeah.
So if you're picking like 3 picks at a time, you can't really do that if you're going back and forth, because you might accidentally pick a SmackDown pick, and you both want the same guy. It just didn't seem realistic. If they would have went 1 pick for 1 pick throughout the night, I think it would have came across better. And then throwing some like
Instead of just
matches
reading a list.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Give them like 2 minutes, and maybe give or whatever it is in between each pick. So it's like, all right, they pick Seth Rollins. All right, here's a little highlight package of Rollins. We're waiting for SmackDown to make their pick, etc. It was just too rushed, and it seems phony to me.
So the draft was terrible. It basically was the same thing we've been seeing for the past year, except finally putting an exclamation point on the separation of the brands. That's basically what it was. We're just confirming that they're officially not going to bounce back and forth. They're going to stay there. That's all it was, because everybody has the same people, with a couple of shakeups because they had to keep the couples together. The War Room, gentlemen.
The War Room.
Andrade.
The War Room. Okay. The War Room. Let's get into this. All right.
You didn't like the guy that painted his face like Ultimate Warrior eating old Chinese food?
I did not like this War Room. It was entertaining to me because it was just so corny and stupid. I've never seen in my history of watching NBA, NFL, any type of drafts, I've never seen War Rooms like this in my entire life.
I've seen better War Rooms in fantasy drafts. Okay, this is fucking retarded.
It was just recorded. Everything that they aired on SmackDown, they just replayed it on Raw. The best thing, here's the best thing, okay? When Raw, before she was traded to SmackDown, when Raw drafted Nikki Cross, they showed a video of the Raw War Room celebrating and throwing confetti all over the place. And I'm sitting there like scratching my head like, if this was the Nikki Cross from NXT, maybe, but no. I don't know why you're going crazy like this. And then they aired that same footage for someone else that came to Raw. It was just so corny, and they were wearing the same clothes, and it was just so bad. It was kind of embarrassing to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
All right. Well, what did you think about some of the 205 guys headed over to some brands? I mean, we got Drew Gulak going to SmackDown, Akira Tozawa going to Raw. Because now, from what we understand, that NXT, it's a Cruiserweight Championship now for NXT, so... I mean, some of the guys, they're getting off there, put them on regular shows. Do you think it's a smart move to get these guys mixed in with the others?
I think it's fucking atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. Because you use these guys to go over to NXT to kind of bolster up that roster so you can put on a 2-hour show. and follow the same model that you've had. Where, yeah, you know what? We're not going to see the same guys every week. We still haven't seen fucking Finn Balor in a match, and he's been on the show for 3 weeks. Like, I kind of like that, because now I want to see this motherfucker, you know? And it's going to be the same thing. So what? Are you trying to tell me that Leo Rush is the NXT Cruiserweight Champion? Who the fuck is he defending it against? If all the guys from the Cruiserweight division are now on Raw and SmackDown. Doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, I think they're slowly trying to put the stake right into the heart of 205 Live and just put it to bed.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're slowly trying to do, because they're starting to ease away on the talent and sending them different directions. A lot of guys are going to NXT now, and I think that show is slowly going to go bye-bye.
No, yeah, and I haven't watched it for forever, and so when they announced Humberto Carrillo going to Raw, I'm like, who? Who's this guy? Is this another one of fucking Rey Mysterio's sons? Like, what's going on here? Who's this guy getting drafted to Raw?
This was the guy you said you hated. That was Hector Garza's like nephew or kid or some shit like that. But he was the one you're like, oh man, he sounds like Del Rio, and you're like, it sounds like somebody else I hate.
Del Rio, but. All right, so if this is going to finalize it, guys, I mean, this is it. The week's coming up right now. Nobody can cross over except the women's tag team champions. We mentioned before earlier to where if they're having this Fiend and Seth Rollins match, that means I guess we're going to kind of see the Fiend on Raw still, or are they just going to go back and forth with promos for the next week? Or I know it's only like a week away till Crown Jewel, but still, or 2 weeks away, right? Or I don't know. Doesn't that defeat the whole purpose again of the whole draft? Because nobody's supposed to cross over, right? Except for just the women's tag team champions.
That's it.
But other than that, I mean, no other big shakeups. I mean, the Viking Raiders won the Raw Tag Team championships while they send Dolph and Rude over to SmackDown. But nothing too crazy, right? It was just let's finalize this pretty much at the end of the day, right?
Oh man, this draft was just. It's tough for me to like kind of get into detail about it because it just bothers me how it did. There wasn't any shocking moments. There wasn't anything that like no tag teams were broken up. No, nothing that just made you go, "What the fuck just happened?" Nothing.
No,
and that's the only one which I thought was weird. Like you literally saw the OC get drafted as a unit. But did anybody else notice that they put Rowan on fucking Raw and fucking Harper on SmackDown? That was the only team they broke up. It was like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah. So after the whole the regular draft or whatever, they still had guys being traded the next day, people who they didn't really pick on TV. Guys like Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, Sarah Logan. They put, they said they got to pick their own show or whatnot, but they were still just being put on shows. And then even as far as today, they said AOP is now going to be a part of Raw. So it's like they kept dragging it and dragging things out to like, oh yeah, we still have these guys. I'm like, you just had two nights worth of the draft, and like you're still dragging it to put people on shows.
Don't tug your peckers.
Okay.
Until next week, bitches, where we get to hear about Mike and how he got deleted by next week's guest, Vince Russo.
I didn't get deleted. I got blocked.
Same difference.
That's right, guys. AnotherWrestlingPodcast.com. Vince Russo next week. Mike will not be talking to him, so we don't have a confrontation on it. But we still won't find out why he was blocked, but we'll find out other things. I'm
sure Mike will tell us.
God. I'll tell that story next week.
All right, guys. AnotherWrestlingPodcast.com.
Get your Blue Chew and get your Manscaped.
Get your Manscaped? What do you mean?
Get your Blue Chew and get your Manscaped.
Wait a minute. I finally.
Oh, sorry, show's over.
And now my computer's finally on.
I gotta go too.
Gotta go, man.